Welcome to the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners. Meeting Thursday, October 29th, 2020. Please be advised that this open meeting is being recorded by WRPS for playback on demand within 24 hours of this event at WRPSRockland.com. Please note that any persons other than those included on the agenda will be muted. Would all participants please utilize the mute function when not speaking? Thank you. Let's resume. Number one, approve minutes of the previous meetings.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's September 10th, 17th, and 24th.
Correct.
Okay. Number two, sewer system evaluation study. AECOM contract.
I guess that's Dave, isn't it?
Steve?
Dave Taylor, isn't that him?
Dave?
He's muted.
Sorry about that. So Chuck, you saw a copy of that. I think all the commissioners saw the copy of the AECOM contract. I think, Chuck, you wanted to add an amendment to that, I believe, right?
No, I didn't. What I was wondering, Dave, is how are they going to be installing flow meters?
There is a partial. So what we're going to do is once they get a set plan and an itinerary, there'll be different areas that we thought were high INI areas that we will install flow meters. So the contract does incorporate flow meters where we see fit. So if you looked at where we had originally on the contract, they had areas, I think you brought that up at the last meeting, Chuck, where they had it red circled in certain areas, you know, the areas. Well, I brought up some areas that were fairly new, like the Millbrook area, the French's Crossing area.
Yeah.
You know, they're only 20-year-old developments. There shouldn't be major issues up there. So we would take some of the monies that were earmarked for those areas and do some high NI areas where we would do the flow meters. So
are you going to do any GIS mapping?
Well, that doesn't include in that, but if you remember, we have GIS mapping already in place from 2012, but there would be areas where we would add a layer to later on, which would be environmental partners, which we could run at the same time, you know, once they start doing that in the spring. So we would be looking at adding an article so we can add a layer to our GIS system that we already have in our system. So that would, you know, remember I talked about maybe adding that and also adding a layer with the as-built that we currently have at the sewer department now and getting that all, you know, incorporated into one system. So we'd be readily available. So.
Well, you know, speaking of the study, I was in at Northeastern and I got a hold of one of their programs they let me play with as long as I was behind closed doors. That it helped figure out inflow and infiltration. And this is just a heads up out of the blue, but for the build outs that you supplied for the approved Lydia Square, Concord, Wendy's, and I included the Beechwood. Based on their modeling to break even, we've got to shoot for 100, just on those, 149,000 gallons a day of just strictly I&I.
Correct.
Keep us where we are now. So I'm trying to see if I can get my hands on that program because it's pretty interesting. But that's just food for thought, though.
Right. So do we have a motion for the AECOM contract that we have in play right now?
The only one thing I'd like to add, Dave, is how about in the future we go out to bid on those, because a lot of companies do that, and I think that's one of the areas where we should be able to write our own scope of work, because a SSE study is basically boilerplate. And
Right.
we just, then all we got to do is plug in areas we know with the data we already have. So I'd like to make sure that at least if we go out to bid on it to see what we're looking at for scopes of work, because I think we could write our own. That
No,
was
I,
100 grand.
right. I agree with you on that. So what happens with that is, engineering obviously doesn't have to go out to bid, but I think you'd get some, like you said, we'd have a little bit more, a better, competitive pricing as it would be, on that
I think
as
it gets a
far
lot.
as the scope. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. So,
I
but
really think that's a scope of work that we could write in-house.
right,
Okay.
right. I think a lot of that is just going to be, high NI areas is what might be something that we just stumble upon, like we've been doing, here and there, even just the last 4 or 5 months. And then what John previously had as high NI areas. So, we could go after those issues first and bring those up, and then pass that on to the developers, like we've been previously talking about. So,
And before we make that motion, what's the balance in the I&I account?
which one? You talking about the article? The article or the?
Strict, not the article. The article's for the SSES study, but do we have a separate budget line item for I&I?
Yeah, I think it's around. I mean, what I looked at last week, I think it was around 70 to 80,000 left. So we haven't done a lot with that, because I know at the last meeting we looked at some areas where we thought would be high NI areas, where we have sewer manholes near open drainage that tend to be flooded. And I know I talked to Rick about some of those areas a couple points. And then maybe those are areas that we do flow meters. And the flow meters is something that we could actually do in-house. There are companies that sell the flow meters, and I could, drop them down the manhole and we could actually go out there. We would save a lot of money doing that, in-house, buying flow meters that we can, reuse, now would be the time we're a low I&I areas, and then, watch how we do over the winter and then through the rainy season as well, so, that would be something I'd like to see, down here, moving forward. So,
But you know what? I just want, but the reason I'm bringing that up, I want to make sure that we keep I&I totally separate from repairs, because I think with the amount of stuff we've got coming at us, that we're really going to need that budget money. And one thing you should have a heads up on it. I don't know if you heard, but I got wind on the zoning board. There's possibly a brewery going in on the FW Parkway.
yeah, I've been notified on that, where
And
the old,
that's a real high water use. And Rick, you may want to contact any of your people in Suez that if they have areas with microbreweries in it, to see how they handle that, because microbreweries by nature are going to be very high on BODs and, and phosphorus.
Absolutely.
So you're gonna have, if they're gonna tighten up in that phosphorus restriction, we're gonna need to know that up front so we can have them put in pre-treatment
Yes.
where they open up a brewery.
Yeah. I actually had a course today on ITP, and up in New Hampshire and Maine, that a lot of our breweries up there, and that's one of their major problems is that,
I mean, it's a killer.
A typical BOD coming into the facility would be like 300. Well, they're talking like 25,000.
Right. No, they're like 5 times. I know that, but the other two kickers are phosphorus and ammonia.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
we would definitely. I would suggest that the board definitely we make them put some sort of a pre-treatment system up at the facility.
Well, I'd make that a condition from the zoning board anyway, but I think what you're going to have to do is, try to draw from experience of Suez, that especially like if you know anyone up in the Gloucester area. I know Gloucester's got a ton of microbreweries.
Yeah.
So see how they handled it, how they prepped, because that'll kill a wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, absolutely. No, I will definitely look into that, Chuck.
And they're a high water use too. So, All right. So, okay, do you want to make a motion now to approve the SSES contract?
Yes. Ron?
Yes. I'll make a motion to approve the AES contract.
I'll second.
Uh,
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Yep.
Biz had asked for specific language for that motion. I believe I gave it to you, Walter. If
Yes.
you could read that motion and vote on that, please.
On the no part,
Yeah, I can go hand it to you. Just a moment.
yep. Right here?
Nope, it's this motion right here,
Oh,
if you wouldn't mind.
oh, yeah. I make a motion to approve the effective date of the Wright-Pierce contract as of July 1st.
That's the
2020.
right, that's the right PS contract. We're on AECom.
Pardon?
The AECom,
We're on the
AECom.
contract, Walter.
Oh,
You know what? That's my fault. Sorry about that, Walter.
I'll just do the roll call.
So
Make a
Ron made the motion?
Pardon?
I believe Ron made the motion before I
Yes.
interrupted him. I'm sorry.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna
Aye.
take a roll vote on contracts. By
A
name.
roll call vote.
Yeah, remember from last week, the attorney said that?
Talking about-
So call on each commissioner in the following order, ask Ron what his vote is. then ask
I
John.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all set on that.
Right. When I interrupted, Walter was in the middle of doing the roll call, so I think we have that covered.
Okay.
Yeah.
you want to move on to the Wright-Pierce contract?
Yes, number 3.
So on that, so the only reason why we're revoting on this is the date. That there was a date issue on it, so we pushed it to the present date, and there's specific language on that, so we can get that out to them. I just want to make sure we can get everybody in to sign that tomorrow, because we have outstanding invoices on that. They're about halfway done with that now. So,
Okay.
Walter, you want to read the specific language?
Pardon?
You want to read the specific language on the Wright-Pierce contract?
It's just a date, isn't it?
Yeah, it just has to be read the right way from accounting. And
But for the motion?
yes,
Make a motion to approve the effective date of the Wright-Pierce contract as of July 1st, 2020, into a fixed date to contract is set.
you'll have to do a roll call on that, Walter.
Yeah, Ron?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, number 4, Glen Point, Abington tie-in.
Sean, are you representing Glen LaPointe?
I am. My name is Sean Riley. I'm an attorney in Abington at 500 Washington Street, representing Glen Point and his company, Abington Investments LLC. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You want me to just kind of get started, give you a summary of why I'm on your agenda? Is that appropriate?
Yes. Yep.
So my clients are proposing to raise an existing 4-bedroom house at 286 Spruce Street in Abington, and then to construct an 8 2-bedroom townhouses about 300 feet back off the road. The Naval Air Station property, or the former Naval Air Station property, will be the backyard abutting land. The property contains about 1.5 acres of land. Abington Rockland Intermunicipal Agreement, as you know, allows Abington to send up to 110,000 gallons per day to the Rockland Sewer Treatment Plant. Monthly meter readings over the last 12 months show that Abington, on average, is sending around 63,000 gallons per day into the contract. And there's only a small part of the town of Abington, which is actually situated within that geographical area covered by the Abington Rockland contract. And this property at 286 Spruce Street is one of them. So for the most part, the portion of Abington which is connected to the Rockland treatment plant is already developed. So we don't really anticipate that Abington's going to generate anything close to 110,000 gallons per day in any foreseeable future. So, but we're only talking about this one, obviously, property on Spruce Street. But we understand in order to connect the new building in Abington to the Abington sewer system, we have to first meet with you, the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners, to discuss the need to allow a slight increase in the volume of the sewer to be sent to the Rockland treatment plant. I understand this procedure doesn't come up a lot because there hasn't been a lot of recent construction in this part of Abington, but I've spoken with Abington's DPW and Sewer Director John Stone. I've also spoken with your DPW and Sewer Superintendent Dave Taylor. So my understanding is this is the procedure I need to follow. First, I need to obtain approval from your board, the Rockland Sewer Commissioners, for the increased gallonage. Second, because of the DEP moratorium for the treatment plant, we must satisfy Rockland's I&I program under the supervision of Superintendent Taylor. Third, my client would then have to go get approval from the Abington Board of Sewer Commissioners for the actual sewer connection permit, because all the construction and connection work will be done physically in Abington. All the system development fees, all the inspections, all of that will be taken care of by Abington, have to comply with Abington's regulations. I should note too that Glenn LaPointe is if you don't already know, he's a licensed drain layer in both Abington and Rockland. And then finally, the project would have to be approved by the Abington Planning Board before any construction or sewer connection works started. But of course, it makes sense for us to first check to make sure that we have approval to connect to the sewer system before we go through the design and site plan review process. So in order to determine the anticipated amount of sewer capacity required by the townhouse proposal that my clients are now putting forth, in the past, we've looked at it in two different ways. We apply the Title V standards, despite the fact there is no septic system. And we've also looked at the actual historical data of what properties used for sewer. So under Title V, as you know, 110 gallons per bedroom. Currently, there's a 4-bedroom house in the property, which equates to 440 gallons per day. And we intend to replace that house with the 8 2-bedroom townhouses. So using the 110 gallon per bedroom formula, we would need to have a septic system of 1,760 gallons per day. After subtracting the existing 440 that's already allocated to the house, we would be increasing the flow by approximately 1,320 gallons per day under the Title V formula. So actual historical data, however, that we look at least in Abington, we've been looking at it, because we know that the townhouse, these new constructions are going to have high efficiency and water efficient plumbing, including low flow toilets. We also check to see what actual use is showing. So the data shows that 2-bedroom townhouse units like this will use on average a total of 90 to 100 gallons per day per unit. So if you use those numbers, 8 units would generate about 800 gallons per day. And then if you subtracted the 250 gallons allocated to the house that exists there right now, the net expected increase would be an actual increase of approximately 550 gallons per day. So Title V would estimate 1,320 gallons increase. Actual usage is estimated to be around 550 gallons. That being said, it's our understanding that Rockland's approval of the sewer connection will require my client to take part in your I&I program, which seeks to repair portions of the Rockland sewer system, which are known to be leaking, with the goal of allowing my client sewer connections while first saving a greater amount of gallonage by repairing those existing leaks. And given that your program calls for an 11-to-1 mitigation target, if we use that Title V formula of 1,320 gallons per day, multiply it by 11, we would need to repair leaks that would save about 14,520 gallons per day. If we use the historical data, the actual meter readings at 550 gallons per day, multiplied it by 11, we would need to save at least 6,050 gallons per day. So it's 14,005 and 6,050. I'm here to seek your approval and your guidance, as this proposal would represent less than 1% of the total gallonage going from Abington into the Rockland plant. We'd like to work with the commissioners and Superintendent Taylor to address the I&I issues, which he believes are the highest priorities for improving the sewer system. So I'm asking the sewer board's consideration to approve the demolition of the existing house at 286 Spruce Street and to allow the connection of the 8 new townhouses in exchange for compliance with your I&I program. And I'd ask the board to confirm what the I&I mitigation target would be. We prefer the 6,050, which represents 11 times the actual expected sewer increase, instead of the 14,000, which is targeted by Title V, which is somewhat inflated. But in the end, as he's done over many years, Mr. Lapointe will work under the superintendent's supervision once our proposal is approved by your board, the Abington Sewer Commission, and the Abington Planning Board. So that's why I'm here, and hopefully I just summed it up as quickly as I could, and appreciate your feedback.
With that said, you do realize Rockland is at capacity now.
Right, I know this.
But so I think before we consider anything, it should be to take the worst case scenario at that 14.5 mark, because we're gonna have to account for the I&I. So I think that's the number we should work with. When do you foresee going to the Abington sewer?
How much gallonage
I know,
going
when
to?
do you see going to the Abington board?
I would likely go after your vote is finalized. We would see what their next available meeting was, and I don't know what they're scheduled for a meeting.
Well, I don't mean to be, I'm not being disrespectful when I ask this, so please bear with me. Why wouldn't, if you're constructing at Abington, why wouldn't you go to them first?
Well, this has kind of been our procedure in the past when we had to have the Abington and Brockton approvals. We would need to go to Brockton first and then go to Abington.
Okay, no, I understand. That's cool.
So, just I talked to John Stone, when this first was brought up. And so the fees paid would go towards the Rockland side, and then the I&I that we are making up will be on the Rockland side as well. So we were in discussions with Glenn on the injector station over at Spruce Street. So we were looking at that as a high I&I area. And I think Rick would attest that that's been an issue over in that area underwater. Is that correct, Rick?
Yeah, so am I understanding that the flow from these additional houses would go directly to the Spruce Street pump station, Dave?
That's correct. So we have, that I went and looked at the site yesterday. So it's currently has a 4-bedroom home on it right now. It's a house with an in-law, and then that would be tied in on the Abington side, and then that would go down to the Spruce Street pump station, which is injector.
Okay, so and what was the total gallons again that they're anticipating?
Total gallons that has to be reclaimed would be 14,520 by the DEP standards.
Okay. What about the actual flow coming from the 8 units or 6? What type of flow are we talking on that?
Well, if you're going by the DEP,
Yeah,
you'd be
110.
you originally was 1760, but the 8 units, but you'd be deducting off the 440 from the existing structure, and then we'd be at 1320.
Okay, so so be about 13,000. So what? 1,000.
1,320 gallons per day.
What shape is that injector station at
Well,
now? If I remember
Yeah,
right?
that was going to be my next question
Right.
to you guys, because that station, Chuck, it's not very good. I can be
No,
honest with you.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's injector station. We get a lot of call outs over there due to the flow. When it does rain, in fact, that station, it works, it runs really hard. So like Dave said, there is I&I.
Look at the area.
Yeah, I mean, if I had my preference, I would actually make that into a submersible station, get rid of those. But that, it's not a lot of additional flow, but it would definitely, we could remove that, and like we were talking about at Butternut.
Exactly. So that was the issue.
What are you talking for money?
Well, this is the thing. So we had initial discussions with Mr. Lapointe on that, where he is also a licensed drain layer. We might be able to work it out where we could get that station to where we really want it. So this is just initial discussions on it, where we could get that injector station up to where we want it to be, with the whether it be a grinder submersible, where it would be something easily for us to maintain. So
what would be the capital investment from Rockland side is what I'd want to know.
Well, that's where we're at right now, just seeing what it would cost. I mean, just from general costs, I know I talked to Sean on it, that those stations could go between 60 to 100. But if you start looking at the developmental fees and also the I&I replacement, we're getting very close to that, where Glenn would be coming up with materials and not as much in labor, where he's licensed drain layer. So like I said, we were just in initial talks on that, where we might be able to get that station upgraded to where we want it to be. So we're still at that point right now.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we table it? Do you have further discussions with Glenn and see when you have some numbers to talk about?
Sean, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm fine. We want to work it out.
Right.
I need to clarify. It was my understanding that the system development fees would be paid to Abington because it would be a connection in Abington. But if they are, I'll talk with John Stone and Dave more about it. If they are to be paid with Rockland, I just want to make sure that Abington's not going to also charge me. You know what I mean?
No, so
No.
what it is talking with John the other day. So there would be a small percentage given to Abington, but most of that would come over onto the Rockland side. And John was fine with that because it gives us in a little dilemma because they also pay us for the capacity over in Abington, which is what you brought up at the beginning of the meeting. So there is room on the Abington side that they cut us a check for every year. So we would be working that out. So it might be something where we'd have to make up on the back end on that check sent over to us at the end of the fiscal year. So.
Now, are we doing any SCS, excuse me, the SSE study, doing anything over in that area?
That area is on the list, but talking with Rick and Ed over at the plant, these and I know I brought it up to the board when Lydia Square came up. You have that Butternut station. You also have that Spruce Street, which is both those stations are near open drainage. So those are underwater, during high flow season. So if we can amend that station, that's a big plus for the town of Rockland. So.
Well, I'll make the motion that we table this discussion until Dave has further discussions with them on the injector station. Come back with some numbers.
Ron?
Yeah, that's fine with me. And, and if it's not the injector station, we'll talk about what other options are and come back to you guys.
Sure.
Right. And I think it was Chuck, you brought up, we want to go with the 14,520 of the DEP standards, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll make a note of that in the minutes.
Well, I make a motion, we table this till Dave has further discussion with the developer.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks for your time, guys.
All right. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay.
Do you want to
Abatement.
have Robin go over the abatements?
Okay,
she's
yes.
dealing with them. Robin, you there?
Robin?
I am. I'm sorry,
Oh.
I was muted. Okay, so the first abatement request comes from Deborah Williams at 190 Rear Myrtle Street. She contacted the water department in 2016 because her water bill was really high and she thought there was a leak. They didn't find anything at that time. Since then, she's had a plumber out twice. They couldn't find anything either. Then this year, the water department has a policy where they reach out to people with high water usage. So they sent her a letter, they came out, and because she had contacted them in 2016, they decided they needed to dig up the yard. So they dug up her meter, her shutoff valve, which was underground, and they found that the meter was working properly. So then they went over to the service line. They discovered that the service line was broken. So they had the homeowner repair the service line. They came back out, everything is working. So she wants an abatement going back to 2016 when she first started, where she's had the high usage. So if I look at the years around that, 2013, 14, and 15, her usage was about 19,600. If I use that as the average instead of what she has been using, which is almost 40,000 gallons in consumption, her abatement over the 5 years comes out to $4,529.98. I reviewed that with the water department and I reviewed it with David, and that seems to make sense. That would put her back to what her normal usage was. And that water was not coming into the sewer, it was going into the ground. So that's their request, if you want
Make
to
a
vote
mo-
on that. Or if you have any questions, I can answer any questions.
And so you said it went from 19 to 40?
Yeah, she was typically, over the prior 3 years, her average consumption was 19,600. She made the complaint in 2016 when it went up to 30,000, then it went to 39, 36, 40, and the last year was 43,500. So the water department did find that there was a leak there. So in order to get her average consumption before her first complaint, I went back 3 years, and I just totaled the years to look at them like that instead of by quarter, because it's been ongoing for so long. And the average consumption was 19.6.
You want to make a motion, Ron?
Where would that money come out of? What fund?
It comes out of our receipts. So the rate fund, we have rates, interest, and service. So when we give an abatement, we take it right back out of the rates. When we collect it from them, it goes into the rates. When we abate it, it comes back out of the rates.
Are we going to take it off on a quarterly basis?
It
Off
comes
of her
out,
bill
no, it comes out all at once.
all at once?
Yeah.
Would she be
Sometimes they
amenable
ask
to
for a
taking it off?
refund.
Would she be amenable to quarterly?
We haven't done it that way before. So what happens is it creates a credit on their account, and most times they ask for a refund. Because a $4,500 credit on your sewer account is a lot.
Yeah.
Did the water department give them abatement on that?
No, because the water went to them. They denied it. So it was in the service line.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, the water department does, anything that goes into the house, the water department denies, but they always advise them to contact sewer in case it didn't go into sewer, and it did not.
And the service line is the responsibility of the homeowner or us, or the service?
They paid it was the homeowner who repaired the service line. But when we went out there, when the water department went out there in 2016, they couldn't find an issue. They didn't find an issue till they dug up her meter and then told her to dig up her service line.
So her meter was buried underground?
Yeah, it's a certain way. Some of them are underground. They have a certain name that they call that. I can't recall what it is, but there are several around town that are underground.
Yeah, the meter pits, they call them.
Thank you.
Ah, okay. So it had to be filled in then, the meter had to be covered.
It was.
Oh, okay.
I would suggest we offer a 50% of, that'd be 2265. Because it is, the service line, as you said, is her responsibility. Is the homeowner's responsibility. What do you
Ron,
got?
what's your
Well,
vote on that?
Huh?
I'll second that,
Yeah, I'd say we offer a 50%.
50%.
I think that 2265 is really fair. I mean, more than fair, especially if it's the homeowner's responsibility.
No, I agree.
That be a one-time, Chuck, one-time refund on that?
One-time refund.
Okay.
Well, what do you guys think?
Yeah,
Ideally, I'd
but-
like to see a quarterly, but I don't think she'll bite.
yeah, I'll agree
I
to
think
that
that's
right now.
fair.
I think that's fair.
Okay,
You agree, Walter?
I agree.
All right.
All
I
in
make a
favor?
motion that we grant her a abatement of 2265.
50%. I'll second it. All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, then, so the next one is pretty simple. This person, let's see. Eileen Small at 223 Vernon Street. Sent in a check. The check got deposited. The money was never recorded in her account. She ended up with interest of 78 cents. She called when she realized that it wasn't paid. I don't know what happened to the check up at Town Hall, but it was deposited, not to her account. So we adjusted her and made the payment, but she has 78 cents of interest that she'd like abated, and I don't have the authority to abate interest.
That's an,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to abate the
second it.
78 cents interest. Yeah.
I'll second that.
I'll buy that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank
That's a
you. So the third one is a little bit complicated. So this is Mr. David Ewell. He's at 290 Webster Street. Originally, he called, he had a leaky toilet. He also got a letter from the water department about a high reading, and he discovered that his toilet was leaking. He asked for an abatement. He had the toilet replaced. The letter from the plumber clearly shows that the water went into the sewer department, so he wasn't eligible for an abatement, but he has an amount of $1,580.23 in arrears that is scheduled to go to lien. And that, what that means is it'll be liened onto his taxes. He would prefer that that amount stay down at the sewer department, and if he could have a payment plan. So he can afford $100 a month. So that means if he stays on plan, he would avoid lien this year and also next year. But over the 16 months, he would pay it in full. So he agreed to pay his current bill every quarter, plus $300 every quarter, which is the $100 per month. And up front, he would pay the outstanding interest. And over time, with each payment, he would pay any accrued interest, which would be included in his current bill each quarter. So overall, the payment plan calls for upfront. The payment plan is contingent upon receipt of the current balance of $140.54, the outstanding interest of $23.35, and the first good faith payment of $300 for a total of $463.89 by November 30th. And then each quarter he'll pay the current plus $300, including any interest.
Walter, I'm gonna
Yes.
recuse myself from this because David is a friend.
Pardon?
I'm gonna recuse myself from this vote because
Oh.
I know Dave.
Okay.
So I don't think it would be fair to the board.
I just have one question. Is this going to be in writing?
It is in writing. I wrote a letter. I
Okay,
could read the
all right.
letter for you if you'd like.
Okay, no, I can look at it when I come down there.
Okay, because
problem.
I would want one of you to sign the letter. Obviously, and I'll have Mr. Ewell sign the letter. And at the bottom of the letter, it says if there is any failure to meet the terms of this agreement, the outstanding amount will be committed to the Board of Assessors and will be added to the tax bill with an additional charge of $10. And basically, that's the language that we use to notify someone that they're going to lien.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept that.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to write down what you say and then move to the next thing. So I have a drain layer license here for DJ Equipment. They were previously licensed in the town, but not for several years now. They turned in their payment.
Is paperwork and insurance papers up to date?
Insurance,
Yep.
yeah.
Drain layer application is complete, the payment is complete, and all three certificates of insurance, and also the three referrals from other towns, because he did let his license lapse.
I'll
So
make a
everything's in order.
Make a motion to issue a drain layers license.
I
I
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Superintendent update. Next.
So we just a few items that we've been going over down here. So we've been having issues with some of the smaller restaurants due to the COVID during the pumping of the grease traps in the morning. So I've been scheduling those between 5 a.m. and 6:30. So a few of them have been asking for a longer span in between to help them out, monetarily, obviously, because they're not doing as much business. Most of the hours have been reduced to half, and the capacity at these restaurants are also half. So the last couple weeks, I took Gary out, and we actually popped a few of the sewer covers, and just checked, and there doesn't seem to be an issue with any of the grease traps. So I wanted to bring that up. If the board was all right with it, we were going to spread out. And it's not a lot, not the big restaurants. It's more or less like the mom and pop ones. Vivi's was one of them. A couple of the smaller ones where we would spread out the schedule of the pumping service. So, if it was a 6-week, it might be a 7 or 8 week, so it would help them out a little bit. And it doesn't
Dave, I think any break you could give them, these poor bastards are really suffering and hurting.
Right.
The only thing I wanted to ask you, have you noticed any like wipes, an excess of wipes? Maybe that's to Rick and Ed. Have you guys seen that inflow of them from the restaurants? Like I'd be thinking of Bella's. It's not Bella's. What's in it?
Lucas. Yeah. I think Rick brought that up. That's the North Station, right, Rick? First that it enters?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah.
I know, Dave, you've been actually inspecting that one. I believe that's like every 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that.
It was a 6 week. It hasn't been an issue. Like he's been having a problem, obviously, up there, capacity, because they had to push people outside. So he did reach out. We were looking to spread that out another week. Like I said, Gary and I, it was due this week, so we pushed it off. And then Gary and I actually went out there and we checked it ourselves. It wasn't an issue. He could probably go another week or two before we have any problems with that ever entering our system. It's still like, 3 feet from where it would be entering. So, that was one. Vivi's was another. She's having a hard time because she's doing all takeout and she's got reduced hours. Yeah. So, I was looking for the board, if you guys are fine with that, we would, we'd start with maybe give them a week or two, and see how that does. And then I don't mind going over there like on a Wednesday and popping covers just to make sure, we're kind of trafficking that and make sure there's not going to be an issue.
Dave, I think that's more than fair. If you don't mind tackling that, I mean, any break we can give these poor buggers,
I agree with Chuck.
And even, if you could see, if you see it, that maybe you and Rick and Ed put your heads together, if there's a way we could reach out to the bigger ones like the 99 or something like that. Any break we could cut them without, Rick, you'd have to be the one to put a call on that. Any break we could give them without burying you, that the headwaters is
right.
Great.
So
headworks that's what's gonna catch you.
Right, and I don't think it's been an issue, and I think this would be if we ran it like temporarily during the COVID-19 operations, and then we go back to, we'll go back to it with these restaurants as we get back to full capacity at some point.
Yeah, as long as it's really monitored, because like I said, I'd hate to see that headwork get pretty fouled up, especially with the wetter weather hopefully coming.
Right, and I think if it, when Suez is out, maybe at some of these stations, if they know any effluents or anything else coming in for solids that's not normally there, or grease, they would let us know. But during the inspections in the morning, most of these grease traps, just noticing where they are on, capacity level, we're looking at, they still got another 3 or 4 feet before, coming out and entering our system. Yeah. So, even, just like you brought up in the 99, that was well below. They're just not doing the business that they were doing before. And like I said, I would run this as a temporary program just to help alleviate them. And then, we'll put it out there that, once we get back to, full operations, that we'd have to go back to the normal schedule on the IPP program.
I think we leave it up to Dave on how many weeks he wants to extend them. I think it's a good idea.
And I'm not,
I think it's a good idea too. Maybe even
Yeah.
if you send it across the board, if we could just say, maybe put up some signage that says, please make sure your patrons or whatever, use the wastebasket for their wipes, just a
Right.
reminder, but we could extend it across the board. That'd be a big help.
and also on that same program, I'm not sure if we want to, if by even helping them alleviate some of the monetarily problems too, do we want to waive the $25 inspection fee during this time? It's not a lot. It seems like a relatively very small amount. That's just for me going out and inspecting during the time of pumping. Is that something, do we want to, we want to look at? I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it might help. And
No, I'd buy into that. Again, maybe, like I said, if they just put up some visible signage about the wipes, like I said,
Right.
Anything we can do to help them out, I'm all for. But, I don't want to do it and jeopardize Rick and Ed. So if they could put up signage about, please be more cognizant of disposal of the wipes. Yeah, well, let's waive that for them. Any break.
That's a good idea, Chuck. So maybe we do that. We waive the $25 inspection fee upon proof that they, put up signage in their, in the kitchens or bathrooms or whatever, and we waive that fee. That would help us on the end out on the pump stations and everything.
Yeah, because they can use any brick they can get.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I
So
thought
we'll
I'd
leave
bring
that up
that.
to you to Dave.
Okay. And I don't think, Ed, you're more or less out in the field. Have you noticed anything at those pump stations more than usual over on the Hingham side, or?
No, not at the Hingham stations. I know Rick and I have been planning. We got to still do the annual cleaning at the Hingham North Station, which is actually right across the street from Lucas, which is the restaurant you guys are talking about. I would say my only comment on this would be that as far as being concerned with greasing the lines more than rags at the lift station, because we're going to get the rags at the lift station pretty much no matter what. I think the main point of keeping up on those grease inspections is to stop your collection lines from getting blocked up. So I think that's the one thing you just want to be aware of if you're going to move these forward or pass on them.
Okay. So I'll move forward on that then. And then the next item we had is we've been having an issue over at the Wheeler Ave station, the smaller station. So there's been an inordinate amount of grease down at that station. And then so we did go and look at that on Wednesday, I'm sorry. Yeah, yesterday, sorry. So there is a large amount of grease down there. So not to point anybody out, I mean, we had some, we have an idea of who the person is. So we're going to send out to every resident on the street, that we are finding this issue. And if this issue continues, there might have to be some home inspections at that point if it continues. But it was a large amount when we popped it yesterday. And it's not all the way up to the top of the street. So it's only a couple manholes down. So it's obviously the culprit is within that scope of where the manholes are, the sewer manholes. So, that's where we're going to work on that. And then that's pretty much it. We've been working on that. One of the articles we were looking to put for next year at the town meeting would be something to clean up some of the substations. We did kind of an inspectorial thing where maybe cut back, some of the high brush, some of the trees that might be an issue down the road, maybe do a perimeter around those 15 feet back. So we'll call it an article where a maintenance article, as it would be for the brush and trees around it, just so we don't have an issue, going forth. I know we had a couple issues on a couple storms where they came down, broke the fence, and we don't want that to hit a generator or something, that's going to cost us a little bit more money, so be proactive on that. I think that's about it. I mean, Robin's been handling everything in house. I know you sent out a lot of notices for, abatements and everything else with the billing. So she's been handling that like a champ. So I think that's it. Any questions from the board?
Can I ask a question? How about we
Sure.
speaking of articles? Why don't we write an article for like, say, another $300,000 for I&I, dedicated strictly to I&I?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And
See if we can get them, because what I'd like to do is really try to stay on this every year and get a jump on it. The SSES study is yeah, that's going to be great, but that's going to give us a lot of lead in to other areas we ourselves can attack
right.
without going after a bunch of it.
So on that, is that just strictly engineering, Chuck, or is that something that we take some of those dollars and we actually do some of the work? We sub out
I
ourselves.
would say a little bit of both. I don't want to say engineering. We could write our own scopes. Let's focus on getting the physical work done. I mean, you and I should sit down and talk about that, how we could, and maybe throw Rick in there or Ed, probably Ed, where you're in the field more.
Right.
How, if we had that 300 grand, what would be the best way to go after solely I&I, not repair in house? Because I think that this study is going to hit that, but take 300 grand and just see where we can get something out of it for the I&I.
And piggyback it with the study that we're having
Yeah,
now.
attack it right on top of that, but we do it on our own.
Right.
If we could lay out the work that needs to be done, then we sub it. If we have to sub it, maybe even something Suez will take on as a caveat to their current contract.
Right. Well, I think I mean, I know Rick and Ed, and we touched base on them a couple different times. I'm trying to let the developers to pay for most of those injector stations and getting those up, because that alone, I know we had an issue with that Lydia Square where that went through, and I think, Ed, you already said we're already getting water over in that area getting pushed out, and we were dry, right?
That thing blows my mind.
Right.
I don't know how they got around the conservation issue, the wetlands issue.
Right.
That is absolutely mind-boggling.
But I think that we can get that back, because, I mean, like we noticed on the plans, it is stubbed out for another building. So, and we also got that sewer ordinance done where we can make them put in that grinder pump that we wanted to get done on the first building. And then we can go back and we can check our numbers on that injector station and make them, he could pay for some of it. And then there's also a proposed development on I think it's the back end of Dexter Road, which is a couple houses, and have the two developers working on that where we can, get that station paid for as well.
Well, that was some of the numbers I was running in at Northeastern on the computer, because I'm looking at the what you gave us for the build outs. Like next year, I mean, just what you got pending, we've got to, I was looking at that model that's telling me we got to remove 250,000 gallons just on the pending ones. And that's
Correct.
not Union Point.
No.
So
Yeah.
we're going to be getting hit.
Right.
So any jump we can get, I would say, I'd like to sit down and if we can write an article for $300,000 dedicated to I&I work on our own, not engineering studies or whatever, physical work, I think would be light years ahead of the game.
No, I think it would make sense because we could piggyback it off of everything that we're getting back from the study.
Okay.
The Suez update.
All right. So I want to bring up I think the last meeting, guys, we talked about the Hingham Street pump and the belt filter press sludge pump here at the facility. As far as an update on the Hingham Street South, the price on that, it's coming in crazy. It's like $38,000 just for the pump, and with a 4 to 6 month leeway. So lead time, because it's built in Sweden. So Ed and I were discussing it as of late, even as of late today. We'd like to take the existing pump that's and send it out to a company, local company in Rhode Island, and it's like mere $400, and they'll go through it, and then they'll let us know what the cost of it is to rebuild it, and then we'll sit back down with the board and we'll discuss, what if it's $17,000 to rebuild it versus $38,000 for a new. Then we can put our heads together and figure out what's the best route to take.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Yes.
Why do we got to pay $38,000 for a pump made in Switzerland, a Swiss?
Well, we wanted to keep that's what the existing pumps are over there, Chuck. So we wanted to keep the same one, same brand and everything, but the prices are they're through the roof. So we are looking at other pumps.
Is it a connection configuration an engineering connection that needs to be changed?
We had to change out originally way back when these were initially installed. So there might be, yeah, there'd be a little bit of work on our end that we would have to do. So like I said, because this is a backup pump, I think right now I'd rather hold on to hold on to the budget, and let's send this other one out. Let them look at it. Let them get back to me and tell me what it'll cost to rebuild it before we jump ahead and buy a new pump.
Okay, before you do that though, what if we rebuild it? What's the availability of spare parts for it?
And that's a good question. That's like I said, it's gonna be going out next week. The company's coming to the plant and picking it up. So like I said, for $400, they'll at least go through it and let us know what they feel if it's even worth rebuilding.
You got a schematic on that pump?
Yes, we do.
Can I get a copy of that? Take a look at it?
Yeah. Yep. Can get you that.
So Chuck, on that, the one pump that we have right now that Rick's talking about, the one that we pulled last month that's going to be going out to be inspected, that one is a different brand. It's a different make and model than the two that are in the wet well at this time. And they're wired, the configurations on the wiring are a little bit different. It's not that we can't rewire it in the same way, but that's why I had initially wanted to go with the same make and model of the two pumps that are in there.
I'm not questioning that. Listen, you guys, that's your call. I mean, you do a great job, so I'm not going to question that.
Right.
I'm just trying to think of cheaper ways we could reconfigure that thing, so we're not going to be stuck with a 38 grand bill. That's a ton of money for a pump.
It is.
It is. Well, so it is, Chuck, but you got to figure these. It's a fairly large pump. It's a 110 horsepower pump. And actually, one thing that I did do, I worked with the salesman on this. And we actually, looking at the flow charts on it, the pump curves rather, he believes that we could cut some of that horsepower down and reduce it from 110 horsepower down to an 87 horsepower pump. And that'll save us, excuse me, that would save us about $7,000 on the cost of that pump.
Oh, that'd be a bargain if you could do that.
Right, but hold on, because even at that brings us down to 32,000. So you're at 38 for a direct replacement. And if we were to reduce down to the 87 horsepower, that brings us to about $32,000.
What do you save on the energy though?
You would significantly save. I haven't calculated it out yet, but you would absolutely save. And I want to, before we did go further with this, I'd like to really take a look at his pump curves and be confident that the 87 horsepower one would be able to perform the same as the 110 horsepower. Now, the reason he believes that we should be able to get the same performance is that and Rick, I wasn't here for this, but you were. But when they initially redid that station over, they ended up increased the size of the force main because the pumps that they had put in actually blew out a hole in the force main. So they increased the size of it. And then what they had to do after they did that is they actually trimmed down the sizes of the impeller. So the flow rates for those pumps that had at 110 horsepower is already cut back than where they were already. So that's why he's thinking we should be able to get in with that 87 horsepower pump. I will say though, I understand they're expensive, but these KSD pumps have been in there since 2001. The one that is the spare right now that we're going to send out to be rebuilt, I believe that went in like 2013. So you got 7 years out of that, whereas the other two are still going strong nearly 20 years later. So.
No, that's cool. I'm a penny pincher.
I agree. No, and I think we should absolutely look at it. Let's get a quote to see what it'll cost to go through it and rebuild it, and then we can make a decision based off all the numbers when we have them all together.
Yeah,
I just wanted to give you kind of an update on why we wanted to go with the exact the direct replacement to match up with the other two that are in there as well.
Hey, that's your call. That you guys know what it takes.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so the next item we talked about last meeting was the belt filter, the sludge pump. I think I told you guys that we don't have a backup over there. The backup leaks all over the floor. It's not reliable. And so you guys gave me the go ahead to start getting the quotes on that. And Ed actually just got the last quote today. And so the whole job, the whole job's going to cost $33,943.40. That includes the new pump, the demo, the whole area, the piping is going to be demo, new piping put in, the install of the new pump, the electrical installation, a brand new VFD. So it's a big job, but as we discussed the last meeting, and you guys agreed with me that it's important that we have a backup because, contractually, it's as far as Suez is concerned, we don't have the equipment, then we can't, and something goes down with this, and obviously we'd have to go back to the board and say, listen, it would cost a lot more money to get rid of our sludge liquid than it is, than right now where we're going out in sludge form.
No,
So
I
that's
think we
why
learned that from what happened earlier this year.
Exactly. So we know the cost of that. And so again, all I'm looking for, like I said, I got the price. I just want to let ask if the board will approve of this project, a total of $33,943.40. And
Before we do that, I wanted to ask another one. Are we all done with the boiler over in the digester?
yep, Ed, if you want, Ed's going to talk about that next, Chuck.
Okay, no, I'm just thinking of,
Yep.
I'm hearing 38th and 30th.
I know.
And I know the boiler was still out there, and I was just wondering
Yep.
if that had been completed.
It has not as of yet. It has not.
Yeah, so Chuck, they're having some issues finding a provider of a boiler that will actually work off the methane gas that'll actually also meet Massachusetts state codes, I guess is how he described it to us. So that's what the delay is right now. They're still looking to find the right unit that we want to ask the bidders to bid on.
Oh, okay. I thought that work was already started.
They did all the technical specifications are all done, but they're trying to select a boiler to put into the bid at this time.
Okay.
So I did go ahead and get quotes for a rental unit as we determined that no matter when we do it, even if we do this job, say we do it, end up doing it in like June, we're going to still have to have some kind of heat source on site, most likely. So I did end up getting some quotes for a trailer unit boiler, and it looks like for a 1 month rental is going to cost about $10,000. So just a heads up on that, something to keep in mind.
So, yep. So like I said, the only like if the board, approve of the sludge, that's the only I'm looking for. If you want to wait on it, I mean, I can give you the breakdown. I can show you guys the breakdown before you. But I know, like I said, it's definitely something we have to do. It is a capital project.
And we did go ahead and get 3 quotes on that, on the pump itself, whereas it was over the $10,000 threshold. So I did get a quote from 3 different vendors on the pump itself.
Yeah, but you got to weigh in that you're at the mercy of the market for sludge disposal.
I know.
That's
Right.
a scary thing to have over, have you by the, I don't want to say short and curls, but have you, but.
Right.
I'd make a motion. We let them go ahead with that, guys, really.
I'll second that. The longer we wait, the more it's going to cost.
No, the sludge market is climbing. It's going to do it again.
Absolutely.
I'll second that motion to Ron to go with it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. And the last item I have,
With the sludge, Rick.
I'm sorry.
How are you making out with that sludge?
Very good. We're back to our, I shouldn't say back to our normal price. They went back and they hit me with another, I think, 6% increase, but I can handle the budget. So we're good. But like you said, Chuck, you never know. The market is very volatile.
No,
Sludge market is, we just don't know. The last item I'd like to talk about tonight, guys, is my personnel. I think the last time I talked, Sean Chaponis did retire. But on a good note, Sean, his last day of work was on the 17th, but I was looking at my budget, and so I kept Sean aboard. Sean's actually working weekends right now, Saturdays and Sundays. I'm giving him like 5 hours each day, keeps him out of trouble, helps us here at the facility. And I'm in the process of hiring a new employee. Right now, we're just waiting for his background check, drug test, all that to be approved. And the expected date of hire is 11/2. So hopefully early next month, we'll have a 8th body here, a 8th full-time body. But I also plan on keeping Sean on for a little bit longer. And while this guy's training and stuff like that, Sean's willing to stay at least through the end of the year. So
that's great news. That's good news. I hate losing
Yep.
knowledge of the plan.
So, And that's all I have.
That's it?
But for me,
No, everyone set?
Yep.
Okay, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.